The US views Australia as a key ally in securing rare earths. It signed an $8.5 billion deal to tap Australia's $53 billion in untapped mineral reserves. Both nations will invest heavily in mining, set price floors, and offer financing with guaranteed supply rights to stabilize markets.
Part of this deal is very specific, $8.5 billion pipeline. There'll be $1 billion contributed from Australia and the United States over the next 6 months with projects that are immediately available.
The US and Australia aim to curb China's dominance by diversifying rare earth sources. These minerals are vital for defense and tech. US President Trump supports boosting supply to prevent Chinese monopolies.
In about a year from now, we'll have so much critical mineral and rare earths that you won't know what to do with them. They'll be worth about $2.
Australia and the US have committed to at least $1 billion in public funding to support the $8.5 billion pipeline of mining and processing projects. Analysts hope there will be many more such agreements with other countries like Canada, Brazil, Greenland, and the like.
It's a bit of a North Star for the industry. There's an anticipation that this will be the start of inking many more agreements that would fall under the framework. But that does need to happen. Time is of the essence.
In the US-Australia deal, a floor price is expected to stabilize markets and attract investment, while long-term deals give the US priority access to Australian rare earths.
Australia has had a view for some time, a bit similar to putting America first.
Right.
Our plan's called A Future Made in Australia, which is about not just digging things up and exporting them, but how do we make sure that we have across the supply chains with our friends being able to benefit, seize those opportunities.
Both governments will align policies to ease approvals and cut risks. In 6 months, focus will be on key projects, joint funding, aligned regulations, and a task force to drive progress and industry coordination.
It looks like the agreement has given a 6-month time frame for a whole bunch of things to happen. I think that's a reasonable time frame, but you would want, and the markets would expect that there'd be a lot of ancillary announcements in that time.
The goal is to build a resilient supply chain that cuts reliance on China within a decade. Rare earths also power clean tech like EVs, turbines, and solar panels, aiding the US's energy transition. The Economic Brief, DD India.
Well, Prasenjit Basu continues to be with us. Mr. Basu, they seem to be fast-tracking this. Now, how quickly do you see China being affected in the processing segment of rare earths?
It'll take some time for new processing plants to emerge. I think it's important to understand also that India is among the top 3 to 5 resource bases for most rare earths. So what is being discussed between Australia and the US could just as well be discussed between Australia and India, India and the US, etc.
Right.
There is one Australian processing company called Lynas. It's the only significant processor of rare earths outside China. There were many around the world until 20 or 30 years ago, but the world has allowed China to develop a monopoly. And that monopoly needs to be broken because China is now weaponizing that monopoly. And this monopoly in processing rare earths is not confined just to rare earths, because there's a lot of mining technology. For instance, if we look at nickel, most of the nickel in the world, it comes from places like Indonesia and the Philippines. But almost all of the processing of nickel, the smelting and further processing, almost all of that used to happen in China until about a decade ago. A decade ago, Indonesia began to make it very difficult for nickel to be taken out of Indonesia to be processed anywhere else. And so over the last 10 years, nickel smelters have come up all across Indonesia, and that has rebuilt a nickel manufacturing sector in Indonesia. So similar things are going to happen with rare earths. Now, if you look at, there are some rare earths that are closely linked to aluminium. India is the second biggest producer of aluminium in the world. So we are the third or fourth biggest producer of bauxite, but we're the second biggest producer of aluminium.
Right.
So we could easily become a significant processor. There are some that are linked to zinc, and the world's largest zinc manufacturing company is Hindustan Zinc. So there are opportunities
Right.
to,
Let
for
me
India to
come in
also
there.
participate
Let
in
me
this
come in there, Mr. Basu. You have been mentioning India has substantial reserves. They are, in Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Odisha. But the question is, how quickly can India transition to processing? Because I mean, you talked about mining, but I mean, China is ahead in processing, as you say.
Well, processing is where China has a near monopoly at the moment, but it is not a monopoly. It is a near monopoly. Others used to do it in the past. It isn't a very, very complex thing to do the processing of critical minerals, but it is estimated to take 2 or 3 years for alternative sources of processing to credibly emerge. India really must participate in that so that we are not held to ransom the way China is currently holding the US to ransom. About 10 or 15 years ago, they were similarly holding Japan to ransom. The world's biggest electronics manufacturing country is in fact Japan still.
Right.
And but Japan too requires some rare earth materials that come primarily from China. So we need to work with our partners. We need to work with countries like Japan, Australia, the US.
Right.
So obviously, we have something called the Quad, where these 4 countries are supposed to be strategic partners.
Okay.
If the US doesn't want to fully participate with us, we could look to Japan and Australia. We could look to others. We could look to Korea.
Absolutely.
We could look to Malaysia. These are countries that have some processing
But
experience with rare earth.
as the report also said, time is of the essence. So we leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Prashanjit Basu. Thanks for being with us on this program.